In the early days of the Cold War, the U.S. government undertook a secret defense project codenamed Planck's Portals. The goal of this project was to explore a physical theory based on Planck's scale that could, in theory, allow the manipulation of in space and the generation of micro-singularities. The project's research and development complex is built in a pyramidal structure in middle of mountains of and includes research rooms, laboratories, locker rooms, and 2 particle isolation plants, a kind of prototype of a particle accelerator. The scientists on the project were prominent researchers, with Albert Einstein and Professor Enberg as the project leaders, who proved that there is another fundamental force that controls and energy absorption on the quantum scale, which we call the X-force, which acts on quantum particles differently than the way the Planck force normally acts. They are charged with developing precise calculations to determine how this theory might be put into practice. By way of proof that the X-force would be responsible for and the absorption of energy on a quantum scale through particles called zeons. The zeons are subatomic particles that are linked to each quantum particle and would be responsible for the transfer of energy between particles. It was deduced that the X-force would be able to produce effects such as nuclear fusion and nuclear fission without using the strong and weak nuclear forces that are responsible for these processes normally. During they worked on complex equations and tested different hypotheses as new quantum laws that describe how the X-force acts on quantum particles and how it is able to produce effects such as quantum superposition, non-locality, and on space and time. Using this theory, we could explain many quantum phenomena that are currently unexplained in our real universe, such as the nature of dark matter, the nature of the Big Bang singularity, or the The project was covered in all ways, and protected by special task forces on constant alert, as the Soviet Union and other actors such as were doing everything possible to appropriate knowledge about the program, as it had already done with the project in 1975. Special agents were in charge of monitoring the scientists and managing incoming, outgoing information as well as each of the clearances. A heliport was dedicated to the scientists' arrivals, and each transport aircraft was camouflaged under the name of a common low-cost company. Project scientists worked under code names to protect their identities, had double lives, and project leaders were kept abreast of all developments through encrypted. Counter-espionage was a constant concern, and scientists had to be very careful when discussing the project, even among themselves. Despite all these precautions, Soviet government spies eventually got hold of information about the project. Spies infiltrated the archive room and succeeded in infiltrating the data and the calculation software. A special agent, codenamed Destiny Sierra, in charge of maintaining the flow of information within the researchers, noticed an intruder guest in the database. The specialist Sergei Tretiakov, and immediately started the retaliation procedure. A confrontation broke out between the American and Soviet agents, and had to be deployed to secure the data and help repel the Soviet agents. As it turned out, the little data that Agent Tretiakov extracted was enough for the Soviet researchers to understand and reproduce the American experiments. After that, a series of skirmishes and offensives using new technologies such as explosives or meteorological weapons took place in the Arctic area and explain the blizzard of 1972 which caused deaths, the 1979 flood in Churchill that caused deaths, floods of 1984 in Leningrad due to the acceleration of the melting of snow and the increase of Soviet rivers that led to the creation of a pact of non-aggression and the end of the Cold War for reasons symmetrical to the reason established by the common opinion. Since 2000, access to information on the continuation of the project is forbidden unless expressly authorized in writing and signed by the Chief of the U.S. Armed Forces Classified Scientific Research Cabinet,